Hello, my monstrosities. Hello once again. Today I bring to you a video in which I want to review the Chaos Demons. Got a first place top recently. And I put out a video, um, apparently on the 27th of October that was speculative as to what demons might need to, cross the finish line. And that's a speculative video because I'm not a Demons player. It's just looking at trends and whatnot. I pitch some ideas on what I think the direction needs to be for Demons to do this consistently. And I wanted to talk about what I got wrong, maybe right, um, and something else that I've noticed, right? Um, First, I know that looking now at other, because I talked about putting together Chaos Knights and Chaos Demons to solve each other's problems, I can understand people not wanting to take that route. If I tell, I can understand a bit deeper now, like I didn't really think about it at the time, but to hear that the way to fix your faction to win is to bring another faction can be a bit discouraging. So I didn't want to make it seem like that, but I can understand definitely how that gets portrayed. Um, so that's on me. But in that video, I did talk about pretty much the key issues I see, and one thing that I highlighted is that I shouldn't say we, Chaos Demons seem to move away immediately from a very staple unit as soon as they got that big change, right? Let's pull up Nicholas Fritzen's list. If I butchered that, I was about to say I think that's German. Um, cool. Team Germany. I sorry, my German is rusty, and actually I think I've forgotten all the German I knew, unfortunately. Except for Dankeschön. I think that's it. But neither here nor there. One thing that I talked about was probably putting Bellicor back into list. And that's not to say that I was the genius, big brain to think about that, but when I was looking through the list and seeing the struggles, and then I finally went back to looking at Bellicor after I did the Toxicrin video, I was like, well, hold on now. Bellicor's not that bad. He is expensive at 325. Like, that is pretty steep. And then to think that like Bellacor's at 325 and you now have Mortarion at 300, right? Like shit like that. Swarm Lords at 240, Gaz is 235, 285, something, right? It's like, and then you have, I don't remember what Gilliman call was, like 150 or something. So like thinking about how these staple pieces are providing essentially more than what Bellacore does at a time for 325 is crazy. But I was, hey, Bellacore should probably come back into these lists, especially when you have within 6 inches can't be shot outside of 18. That's actually pretty fair. And I also saw that while you're bringing bulk with a lot of the list skewing towards 7-ish greater demons, it was a lot of lack of damage from what I saw, into which you had these things, but they don't. Their numbers for damage output outside of Shalaxi and the Bloodthirster, maybe, they don't punch what I would think that a greater demon should punch. That's just from an outsider point of view again, right? Um, and then there's also the issues of bring it down, assassinate when you have a bunch of greater demons where you could take that fixed, but good luck if you actually can punch through all of them, and just that always coming up in the cards of, well, if I take, if I get bring it down, or if I get assassinate right, there you go, right? Is bring it down still not fixed? Anyway, but yeah, that's another thing where it gets highlighted, and everybody knows that. That's a common issue, risk reward you take with running demons, really, and the greater demons. But Be'lakor does provide some safety into which do you need to be as durable? And as we're looking at this list, this came up to one thing that I recently thought of, and then I saw what people are doing. It's without a doubt the tankiest unit in the Demon's Index is a Great Unclean One with Endless Gift, right? The 4-up Feel No Pain enhancement. But that's not in this list, right? Instead, we have something like Shalaxi for 425 points. The Changeling for 90, right? Lord of Change. Great Unclean Ones here. Nothing but Great Unclean Ones. Great Unclean Ones here. Great Unclean Ones here. So looking at the first place, to not have something that is insane to try to get rid of is wild. But, and honest, I genuinely was thinking about some of these things, and I'll tell you how, just always check back. Like, when you think you're a genius, see if somebody else is doing it, okay? And be like, wait, maybe we all came to the same conclusion. I think the Great Unclean One, not just because this is a first place win, and let's also say, Nicholas isn't, like a new player on the demon scene. We have Nicholas back here, and I think there was one more earlier. Can't remember. But got the golden ticket with him. Right. So if you have Nicholas, who, as we can see, just isn't the Great Unclean One believer, getting these dubs out here for a golden ticket. WCW's coming up too, right? Next week, or is it later? Next week. Right. Anywho, golden ticket qualifier. And then to run it back and still not have the Great Unclean One, there's something there. Okay? There is something there. Because what do you get for a Great Unclean One? You get a paperweight, kinda. Nobody's gonna go that close. You can pick up small infantry, really, right? But once people figure out, I'm not going to try to kill that thing, it's not worth. And then, I want to talk about a unit that I think other people gave up on, but we're seeing for others. Is that purple seems to be out of favor. A lot of people would say, no, I'm not feeling purple. Slanesh units, overcosted, not worth it. But here we're seeing Shalaxi come back for 25 points cheaper. I would have figured that you need way more than that. And honestly, I still think that she should come down to 400 when Emperor's Children's come out, because it's ridiculous that they won't be able to take a named greater demon with the current way the rules are set up. Unless they make an exception, it's like you can either take Shalaxi or Demonettes instead of needing to take Demonettes to take Keeper and, this, that, whatever. But we have Shalaxi actually doing damage now. That's one thing I was like, well, they punch like pillows, comparatively. Shalaxi can punch things, so that's cool. But then we also see the Keeper of Secrets. Enhancement is whatever, if I'm being honest. I looked at it a second time. I was like, man, that's not as good as I thought it was. But the Keeper of Secrets, we'll get into why that's the other angle. And finally, we're seeing Kairos. Kairos has Lord of Deceit, into which, well, I shouldn't say we're seeing Kairos, but going back to things that Niklas is bringing, we have Kairos. And that was a thing that I'll also say this is another reason why I implore you to look at other factions to come together on ideas. Assuming future me has not fucked this up, this is coming out after I've released the Tyrannage video for being a nuisance versus melee armies and a nuisance versus ranged armies. And TLDR, if you are just a Demons player and you don't have interest in looking at those videos, well, you've stumbled upon this one. If you have Vect, or Lord of Deceit, excuse me, you become annoying as hell for melee armies. Outside of 12 inches, who gives a fuck, right? Within 12 inches, everybody gives a fuck. Now, for ranged armies, if you can't get shot outside of some number of inches, you can't get shot from a ranged army. And then when they finally get close, you punish them. So that's where we see Niklas do something like that in my theory crafting, my summation of it. But to that extent, let's look at what Bellor has besides just the 6-inch aura of can't be shot outside of 18. 12-inch movement on a monster that flies. T10, 4 up, 4 up, 18 wounds. Leadership 6, 5 OC. Deep Strike, Stealth. Shadow of Chaos, 6 inches around him. Yeah. Do I still think that's overcosted, 325? I do. You shouldn't need such a staple piece. Like, if they're going to bring the Primarchs down, Bellor should come down, in my opinion, right? But, you know, neither here nor there, I guess. And then, like I said, for Greater Demons, I expected them to punch more. We're looking at having to overcharge for an 18-inch weapon, 12 attacks hitting on 2, strength 6, AP 3, damage 1. Right? This is Bellor, okay? Now melee, admittedly, you have lethal hits on the strike, 6 attacks hitting on 2s, strength 14, AP 4, D6 plus 1. That's cool, that's fine, and this is another reason why I was like, well, that's could fix the Toxicrin. And to where I want to get into melee, but if I can't get there, I'm fucked. So, Bellor solves that for himself and for others nearby. And this is just from the perspective of somebody that does not play demons. However, I have 2 tabs here for people that you should, if you haven't already seen, guides and things that know better than I on demons. Got Barnyard Wargaming. Sorry, but as you can see, there was a lot going on my typing right there. Barnyard Wargaming, right? Just put out this updated guide 4 days ago. Yeah, go ahead. That is a very good resource for knowing demons from what I can understand, right? I also put this one out 4 months ago, combine the knowledge of the two, and hear the opinion on this one, I guess. That'll probably give you a lot of what you need to understand where this should be going. Now, this isn't a slight, but from what I understand, Australia does things very different from everybody else. So it should be noted he's Australian, so take that information for what it needs to be, I guess. I don't have any beef with the Aussies, last I checked, but, you know, people talk about how Aussie's meta is drastically different from the rest of the world's. And to that point, Germany's is looking to be the same as well. So keep in mind where you are when thinking about some of the knowledge to apply to it. Then you have Tactical Tortoise, who also put out a Demons, how to everything you need to know 1 month ago. 48 minutes covers a lot, and I saw that comments were um, catching some, I shouldn't say catching, but adding additional information. So, also look through comments when you look at these guides to think and know about some things further for this. So those are just two resources I wanted to share while I'm making this video so that you understand kind of how you get to some points, like why I might say you should add Bellicor, and I don't remember if either of them said, you should be bringing Bellicor, but then you got Nicholas out here that's like, yeah, I'm going to take Bellicor. So keep all of these things in mind, and I'm not going to add my own video back here because, again, I can see how that is unhelpful when I tell you add other things. But moving on from that, I want to go into Kairos Fateweaver, which now plays into the if you can make yourself annoying for melee armies and make yourself annoying for ranged armies, you become annoying and do shit like win, right? So you have Kairos, 12-inch move, another flying monster, deep strike, T10, 4 up invuln save, 20 wounds. Lord of Deceit, each time your opponent targets a unit from their army with a stratagem, if that unit is within a foot of this model, increase the cost of that stratagem by 1 CP. Each time you target a friendly Zinch Legions Demonica unit within 6 inches of this model with a stratagem, roll 1d6. If the result is greater than the current battle round number, you gain 1 CP. Another way for you to just have CP generation if you want to add more Zinch units, but at the same time, if you target Kairos with something, you can proc this. And of course, you give your Shadow of Chaos to matching Zinch Legion's demons. For the ranged weapons, now, if you can't be shot for, let's see, whatever reason, without 18, with outside of 18 inches, but you can shoot up to 24, it's looking okay. You have Witchfire, focus Witchfire on the Infernal Gateway, D6 plus 3, D3 plus 6, hitting on to Strength 9, AP2, D3, AP3, D3. Probably just going to use this one, if I'm being honest. But hey, if I'm hearing that you should probably hazard this every time, because fuck it, why not? Fuck it, we ball. Staff of Tomorrow, a psychic melee attack. I should also note there's another downside that at the current point in time, people are finding out that Imperial agents look cool. So there's a couple of anti-psychers in that book, so that if it gets teched into, some things might hurt. Now, don't take that as a you will see it. You probably will not see it. But enough people have been caught by surprise by Imperial agents that are good players in recent memory. So I just want to add that as a footnote of maybe be careful, I guess. But Staff of Tomorrow, psychic melee weapon, 5 attacks, hitting on 3s, strength 8, AP2, damage 2d3. Again, once they finally get into melee, it's not like it's the worst thing possible for you. You're not playing fucking Tau, right? But, especially when this has indirect fire, you could be behind something. Hits on 4s now because of indirect fire's current rules. If this gets outdated at a later time, keep that in mind. That's just because of current indirect fire rules. But you're indirect firing behind a wall, can't get shot on the other side of the wall, and putting out a Lord of Deceit aura for melee armies that finally come for you, and then you beat their ass with Bellicor. Seems simple enough. Steep for the points, but simple enough. Then let's go to beating ass, something that thankfully I looked at a little bit more because of the World Eaters speculative video I did. Um, I'll be honest, I usually wrote off the Corn Greater Demons because nobody seriously took them outside of course, just a Corn Demon list. So that's what I mean by like seriously took them. If it's not in one of the mixed army lists, I go, oh well, you just like Corn Demons, right? So you're going to bring Corn. Um, but it's not something that's being seen. But I did want to highlight that we are talking about a T11, 4 up, 18 wound flying monster that has access to dealing the damage I say is lacking in a lot of the demon index, right? We're looking at the Axe of Corn and the Great Axe of Corn, strike and sweep, 8 hitting on 2, strength 14, AP4, D6, or 16 hitting on 2, strength 8, AP2, damage 1 for the Axe of Corn. And then Great Axe of Corn, 7 hitting on 2s, strength 16, AP4, D6 plus 2, 14 attacks hitting on 2, strength 10, AP2, damage 2. From what I would say, you probably are just taking the Great Axe of Corn, right? But if you do want, I'm assuming, the Lash of Corn, as well as your Hellfire Breath, then you go down to the Axe of Corn, right? Or then again, more attacks is better, so maybe that is the go-to combo. But as we've fallen out of seeing people run green and or red, where I will say that's the other mix. I should clarify that was going on for for a while, not a just not a couple of months, but for a bit there. It was, well, extreme offense and extreme defense. There's no real blend. You just took Great Unclean One and Rodagus and put them places so that they can't get, well, they won't get punched too heavily, and then you punch back with Bloodthirsters and kind of Scarbrand, which Scarbrand doesn't have fly, so I'm really struggling to understand why Scarbrand is such a go-to over the Bloodthirster, but let's pull it up. Just, I understand the add 1 attacks characteristics to melee weapons, but also +1 to hit is pretty good, and this does not apply to monsters or vehicles. So Scarbrand doesn't even benefit from it from himself. Yeah, just side note. But then going on to the Keeper of Secrets, one that definitely I was like, this is not worth, right? Like, we're talking about strength 6 and at most strength 8. But this goes into a bit of like the Lord of this. I said Lord of the Sheep. The Catan Shard of the Deceiver. Goodness. Um, in which you have something that is fair profile for a monster, right? Then you add another layer of damage reduction. If you have Shining Aegis, which you probably will, 5 would feel no pain on T10, 4 up invuln, 18 wounds is nice. But it also has mesmerizing form, so you are getting -1 to hit. And not just at ranged, in melee too. So like, okay, that's cool. While a friendly Slanesh Legion's Demonica unit is within 6 inches of this model, improve the AP penetration of melee weapons in that unit by 1. So we're talking about AP 3 out here. As well as providing that. That's the other thing that I have beef with why Shalaxi is so high, but hey, I'm not the expert here. I'm just here to highlight shit and make information more available for people that, are looking for these things. Shalaxi really is self-serving. Outside of giving the Shadow of Chaos so that Slanesh demons can come in, at the start of fight phase, select one enemy unit within engagement range of this model. Subtract 1 from the attached characteristics of those melee weapons. Like, it doesn't buff. So I see that that's also nice to have a Keeper of Secrets, into which if you are taking a little bit more purple, there you go. And speaking of the purple, let's talk about, well, I think I have them back here, so we'll keep that in a second. Going on to the other purple, I did want to address that I'm surprised is only like a 1 of unit here. Seekers, and I don't think, has anybody else? Yeah, I didn't see others include this. And I guess I'm just revealing all of Nicholas's secrets ahead of time. So sorry, Nicholas. Um, but demons are interesting because what I didn't realize until looking through all the units again, they might have the best mounted in the game, right? Like just straight up the best mounted. And I don't mean a singular mounted unit. I mean you look at everything with the mounted keyword. I think most of the good ones are coming out of Chaos Demons. Seekers, yeah, they're only T4, 5 up invuln, 2 wounds, right? Apiece. But they give you something that I'm not seeing a lot of out of Chaos Demons, which is scouts, right? And for 75 points, I'm sorry, for 80 points, were they 75 at one point? Why am I thinking about 75? But for 80 points, they give you scouts. And let's just see, right? Let's just see. They're your only source of scouts in the demon index? Yeah, like just to show. Only one, right? This is your forward pressure, so you can do things. I'm surprised that we're looking at only one unit of Seekers and then 3 units of Screamers, but you need to take control because not only for your army rule, because the detachment rule is the fucking deep strike with bullshit, right? Or something like that. I get confused. Demons it's index. It's been the same thing for a year and some change. But you need something. Do you have infiltrators? Let's see. You have blue horrors, nurglings. Yeah. So you probably need something to help you take control of shit, so you can get your Shadow of Chaos. Now, pink horrors apparently don't have it, and we're not doing blue horrors seemingly anywhere. But yeah, maybe we need to look at that as some amount of pressure so you can actually play your own game. Get your board control started, right? Like let's just again maybe Nurglings for cheaper, block some things off and don't care about them. Bring Nurglings for doing points anyway, but everything has deep strike in here, so you don't really have to worry about that part. But yeah, we're looking at some points that need to be worth considering. And going back to my whole mounted, like, holy shit, y'all have good mounted. The Burning Chariot. For the cost of an Immolator, you get Immolator. And the Hellhound in the, whatchamacallit, Imperial Guard. And for 10 points more than 3 Pyrovores, right? I'm like, holy shit. The Burning Chariot, I've always heard everybody talk about it. Now, there's not much shooting out of demons, right? But if benefit of covers getting stripped is such a key game plan that also, just as a side note, I'm surprised. I'm warning now in case it does start happening. You can bring emmulators into any Imperial detachment thanks to the agent's book. So, you know, beat them to the punch and start stripping cover first with burning chariots that are flying, mounted, 12 move, T8, 4 up, 4 up invuln, 9 wounds a pop, 11. I'm sorry, 11. 115 for the model, but you know, Fire of Tzeentch Blue Fire, 18 inches, 3 attacks, ignores cover, hitting on 3s, strength 9, AP 3, damage 3. That's, yeah, at a max of 9 damage on that one. Or Pink Fire, ignores cover Torrent. You know, Torrent does the things of about 12-ish range, 2d6, 5, 1, 1. And you get to strip cover. So, you know, maybe if you need to eat it a little bit over there, get an 18-incher out there to hopefully strip some cover. That's all you really need. And then the melee weapons are okay, especially when you have extra attacks, 6 attacks, hitting on 4s. That's better than some, right? Strength 5, 0 AP, damage 1, or 6 attacks. Well, and 6 attacks, hitting on 4s. Strength 6, AP 2, damage 2. Pretty fine, so looked at that. And then we go to one that I have talked about before, but you have a 95 point Battle Shock test maker range, right? I went through and in that other video I did, I kind of equated Screamer Killer to the Night Abominant, and then when I was actually recording a Screamer Killer video, I'm probably going to re-record it at the time of recording this. Um, I was like, well, no, I guess it's actually closer to just having a skull cannon, right? Like, I would love a skull cannon for 95. And you go, but you have the Neurolictor, and it's like not quite the same because 48-inch range with a skull cannon that blasts, D6 plus 2 attacks, hitting on 3s, strength 9, AP 1, damage 2. Yeah, I'll take that on a T9 4-up invuln save, 4-up regular save, 9 wound body. 95 points, and again, we have Biting Maw and some additional attacks with Attendance Hellblades. 2 attacks, hitting on 4, 6, 0, 2. 4 attacks, hitting on 3s, 5, 2, 2. Deep Strike. And you like to make people take Battle Shock tests because if they fail, within your Shadow of Chaos, that's D3 mortals. Maybe fit 1 or 2 of these bad boys in for also some shooting to go with your Burning Chariot. You know, like I was like, okay, it's no secret that demons are melee intensive. But, you know, if you're just sitting on top of Immolator and Battle Shock Test Maker, make it easy on yourself. You know? For 100 and what? I'm sorry. 200 and what? 10 points? 20 points? 210? Just make it easy. I don't know. I just think this looks like a good tech piece. And then going to other mounts at that. This is more so because I was looking at World Eaters, and World Eaters are shaking in their boots that the new units that they'll get when their codex happens is mounted. They don't want cavalry, from what I understand. Then I was like, well, damn, is it that bad? So just pulling out the Skullmaster and the Blood Crushers, they do mortal wounds on the charge, devastating wounds, and again, Battle Shock test. Right? So it's looking pretty decent for forward pressure out of the Khorne camp. Right? So maybe it doesn't even need to be as intensive. Not to criticize, of course, somebody that fucking won, right, list, but just thinking about it for everybody that might have clicked on this looking for ideas and trying to figure shit out. If you have Be'lakor, you don't need a Bloodthirster, but if you take Be'lakor, Kairos, in my opinion, I don't like Shalaxi, but that is literally just my non-shit opinion, so, you know, fuck me. Put a Bloodthirster here and, you know, Changeling gets you the same shit, yada yada yada, and swap some things around. You're looking at, you know, Kairos to drop your Burning Chariot, Bloodthirster to drop your Skull Cannons from range, and then you charge somebody with Skullmaster, Blood Crushers. Just could be nice in my opinion. That's devastating wound damage, mortal wound damage, battle shock test taken, and possibly mortal wound damage. I think there's something to experiment with there. Then we go on to Battleline, and this is why I wanted to talk about this because uh, I've been reevaluating a lot of points values for things like Tyranids and, you know, so on and so forth. And for as long as I've looked at Daemonettes, it's like, well, you take Daemonettes and you take Celeste. Now I ask you, just like how Flash gets previously were, where it's like, well, instead of taking Captain Badrock, if you just take more flash hits, you do more damage. Why not just take 2 Demonette squads? And I'm not saying that that's the right answer. I'm just saying it looks like an answer, right? 2 units is typically better than 1. And you have Celeste at 20 points more than just adding again. Can stand back up and is tougher, right? By all means. But the difference of 9 wounds and 10 wounds is 1 wound. Yeah, it's nice to make them have crits on 5, but how much did I care about my T3 models actually making it to combat and doing the dev wounds is something that I just want to put on the table to think about. So maybe 2 Demon squads versus putting Celeste in. That's just outsider opinion again. And finally, Battleline, that fucking turbo that I didn't realize until looking at Death Guard. Plague Bearers. Deep Strike T5, 5 up invuln, 2 wounds a pop. Of course they're Battleline, so 2 OC. I didn't realize these motherfuckers are a little bit sturdy, okay? They're a little bit sturdy. Now, will Epidemia still be here when the Codex drops? Who knows? But there's some more possible CP for you if you want to go that route. And for cheaper than just a second squad of Plague Bearers. Right? So, all in all, I think that Niklas, and not just because he won, highlights probably where it needs to go, in which you're annoying for ranged armies, you're annoying for melee armies, and you do damage. Like, those are pretty much the 3 things you need to do, I guess, in 40k anyway, right? Don't get hit, make it harder for your opponent to hit you, and then hit them hard. So, there's your trifecta of things. Maybe think about it. Go, once again, check out these guides, and take all this knowledge forward and see where that goes. But yeah, if you like the video, like it. Got a comment for me, comment. And until next time, peace out, my monstrosities.